Hello everyone, this is the fourth session of the workshop. So today we're going to learn about the pawn. The pawn, let's go to the instructions. So you all know that the pawns are the board leaders. So how can it go? How can it capture? You can see the pawn on c3, the white pawn on c3. The white pawn on c3 can go to c4. So you all need to understand that the pawn can only go in a straight line. It cannot go backwards. It can only go forward. The pawn can only go forward. So you can see the white pawn on f4, it goes only to f5 square, f4 to f5 square. So you can see the white pawn on g4, the white pawn on g4 can go to g5. You can see the white pawn on d5 can go to d6. And let's say the black pawn can go to b5, b6 to b5, and a6 to a5. So when you see from the black's perspective, you can see the black pawn can only go forward. It cannot go backward. The pawns cannot go backward. It can only go forward. Even while capturing, it can only capture forward in a diagonal way. So now you can see the white pawn on b2. So in the starting position, when the pawn is in the starting position, the pawn can able to go 2 steps also. But it is possible only when it is in the starting position. So when the pawn is in the starting position, it can able to go 1 steps or 2 steps. So after when you go 1 step or 2 steps, and the pawn cannot go 2 steps, again it can only go 1 steps. Yeah. So you can choose your own move. If you want to go 1 step or 2 steps, it's up to you. Yeah. And now let's see from the black's perspective. The black pawn on f7, the pawns can only go forward, right? So the black pawn on f7 can go to f6 or f. And you all can see here the white pawn on a2. The white pawn on a2 can go to a3, but not to a4 because of bishop is there. And now you can see the white pawn on d2. The white pawn on d2 can only go forward, right? But in this position, you can see the queen on d3, so that the pawn on d3, d2 cannot move. So if you want to move the pawn, first thing is you want to take your queen out from the d3 square so that you can move the pawn. The pawns cannot jump. Let's do some pawn movements here. This goes here. And the pawn on d2 can go to d3 or it can go to d4 also. And this pawn, the black pawn, can go to f5. So from the black's perspective, the black pawn can go to f5. And now this white pawn can go 1 step or 2 steps, but in the starting position, if we go 2 steps, then we will get some advantage. So let's go to d4. And the black pawn on b4 can go to b3. And now when the pawn comes to capture, the pawn can able to capture in a diagonal way. It can go like in a straight line, but it can capture only in a diagonal way. So you can see here the pawn on c3 could able to capture the black queen on b4, or it can go to c4. So capturing the queen is very it's a profit for us. So the pawn on c3 can capture the black queen on b4 like this, diagonal. So the pawn will capture diagonally only 1 step. It can capture diagonally, but only 1 step like this. Then if you want, you can take this pawn to b5 with the next move. Now you can see the black pawn on e4, the black pawn on e4. So let's turn the board to the black side here. So you can see the black pawn on e4. It could capture the bishop or knight. You can choose any one of them. And then you capture like this. So the pawns can only go forward. So you can see the white pawn went to e4 and then black played the pawn to e5. So you can see the pawn cannot capture in a straight words. It can only go in a forward. Okay, but the pawn can only capture in a diagonal way. So you can see the black pawn and white pawn stuck in the middle. So you can see the white pawn cannot go to e5 square, or the black pawn cannot go to e4 square, because the pawn cannot capture straightly. It can only capture in a diagonal way. And now the promotion. So you can see the pawn promotion here, the pawn promotion on the pawn. The promotion is like when you take your pawn, if you're playing from white side, if you could able to take your white pawn to the other side of the board, just like all the way to the black side, you can see the white pawn on f7 could able to go to f8, and you promote anything. You promote queen, you promote rook, bishop, or knight. But the queen is a powerful piece, so you go for the queen here. Yeah. So now you take queen here. And from the black pawn also going to the e1 square, and then you promote any one of them. If you want to take rook, queen, bishop, or knight, you can take. But maximum you want to see which gives you the maximum profit. The queen is a powerful piece, so that you can promote queen. Now you can see here the white pawn on a2 can go to a4, a3, or it can able to capture the queen. And then the white pawn d5, the white pawn can go to d6, or it can capture the rook. And the white pawn on f7, the white pawn on f7 can go to f8, and it promote himself into queen or rook, anything you want. And then you can see the white pawn on g2 can go to g3 or g4. Can the white pawn capture this bishop? I mean the rook. Sorry. Can the white pawn capture the knight? No, the white pawn cannot capture the knight, because it can only capture in a diagonal way and in only one step. Right? So the white pawn on g2 can only go to g3 or g4. Let's see from the black's perspective, black pawns. The black pawn on g7 can go to g6 or g5. The black pawn on d6 can capture the white bishop. The black pawn cannot go to d3 to capture the rook, because it cannot capture in a straight way. It can only capture in a diagonal way. And then you can see the black pawn on c2 could go to c1 square, and then you promote queen or rook or bishop or knight you want. And the black pawn on a7 could capture the white pawn on b6, or the black pawn could go to a6 or a5 square. One of two steps. So you all should know that when the pawn is in the starting position, it can go 2 steps or 1 steps. And now the other rule, another rule is a very important one. It's called n%. So you all can see this. Let's see this from the white side. The white pawn on c2, and then black pawn on b4. So white played pawn c2 to c4, 2 steps, right? So the white thought like, if white go 1 step, then the black pawn will capture the white pawn. But actually, you can see the white pawn went to c4, but still the black could capture this, because of this white pawn is crossing the attacking square. This is a special rule called n%. It happens only with the pawns. And it can happen only when the black pawn stands on the 4th rank, and then when the white go 2 steps. So now you can see the black pawn is having 2 options. One is to n% on c3, or else the black pawn can go to b3. Now n%. So this is called n% rule. And now the right is lost. For example, in this position, you can see white went 2 steps. Black went 2 steps here, and white thought like, I want to capture in the next move, but it cannot. So because they will lose the rights. The thing is, the rule is like, when they go 2 steps in the right time, you want to do n%. Otherwise, you cannot do n% in the next move. You want to do that in the right time. For example, like this, when the black go 2 steps, white should have played n%, capturing on g6. But they play the king. After when the black did king f7, now there is no n%. So this is the end of the lesson, moving the pawn. I hope you all understand this. Thank you.